Welcome to another video from DK Custom Products. My name's Kevin, this is Chuck, and this is a 2019 Tri-Glide with a 131 in it. Correct. That's what we're going to talk about today. Dwayne, as you can see from the intro there, I did an interview with Chuck on his 131 kit that's installed on his 2019 M8. And unfortunately, the audio, a good portion of the audio was crap.
Want to hear the most annoying sound in the world?
So, yeah. We have better audio now, but we didn't have the better audio when we were making that recording. He lives in Colorado, we're in Mississippi. There's no way to replicate the interview, so we're going to do the best we can to where the audio is just bad, to go over some of the high points, and then of course play the audio where it is okay. None of it's good, but where it's okay in the video. Number one, will the 131 fit in a M8, especially an M8 Tri-Glide? Yes, it fits. Obviously it fits. It's in there.
Yeah.
The second was there any problems? The dealership, the Harley dealership that installed this for him, did not feel that they could get a good tune with the Screamin Eagle tuner, so they did use the Power Vision. The next thing I asked him was, did he use the larger throttle body or the factory throttle body?
Right, and that's a really good question.
Yes, and they use the standard size throttle body because with the larger throttle body, you'll get better peak horsepower numbers, but you will not get as good a low-end torque numbers as with the factory throttle body. So they use the factory throttle body.
Okay, well then, did they upgrade anything else like the cam, or did they still use factory?
Well, they did not use the factory 131 cam, the kit 131 cam, because he wanted his power down low. The trike is obviously heavier than a touring bike or a Softail with an M8 in it, and he wanted his power down low and to compensate for the extra weight of a trike. So they used a different Screamin Eagle cam that gives more power down low.
Yeah, okay. The 114 stock, it's no slouch, right? But compared to the 131, what's that like, you know, in comparison?
And we talked about that a lot, and it's in the video, and the audio is no good. The 114, he felt to really be in the power band, he had to be up close to 3,000 RPM and just to get enough power to pass.
Yeah.
Whereas the 131, besides having a lot of fun pulling the front wheel up and all that, he feels like he can be a gear higher than he was on the 114, and that starting around 2,000, 2,200 RPM, he has more power than he had at 3,000 RPM on the 114. And so that's one of the main reasons he wanted to go from the 114 to the 131, is the 114 was just barely cutting the mustard, where he lives at 8,000 feet in Colorado and rides up 10, 11,000 feet elevation, where you do have less oxygen content in the air. You have less power, and you know, lots of two-lane roads, lots of curvy two-lane roads where he gets stuck behind a cage and wants to pass them, and he needs to have quick power that will get past that car quickly. And so not having to downshift and just rolling on the throttle at 2,000, 2,200 RPM and having all that power on tap was the big deal for him. Right here, for some unknown reason, our audio started getting a little bit better, so we're going to play this part of the interview live rather than trying to recreate it here in front of the screen.
Yeah.
And so you just went to your Harley dealer and said you wanted a 131?
I have a Harley dealer I really like. Can I plug him? Sure. Mile High Harley Davidson in Parker. It's easier to drive. With the 114, I always felt like I had to pay attention to what RPM I was
at. What RPM, what area, and all that.
And you don't anymore. enjoyable in all the gears.
Well, I know we were riding earlier today in some hilly twisties, up and down hills and twisties. And we were going 50, 60, approaching a curve and maybe going through the 25-mile-an-hour curves at 40 to 50 miles an hour. But I know that when I was going down the hills, I was in sixth. But if I saw a curve at the top of the hill coming up, I downshifted to fifth, sometimes fourth. What gear were you staying in?
I think I'm a gear higher all the time.
So you did downshift to fifth in some of those?
Yeah.
But never to fourth, probably?
I will sometimes downshift into fourth in those situations to get the engine braking going into the corner.
Okay. I have a question for you. When I'm on my third tri-glide, I had the 2011 twin cam, the 2014 103 twin cam, and now I have the 2019 114 with our Performance Plus Stage 1 in it. But when I am going through a corner and I accelerate, if I accelerate too hard, sometimes my front wheel will get a little light and start skipping. This is pretty touchy on here. Tell us about going through accelerating through a corner and what that's like.
You have to drive corners a lot differently with the 131. I do anyway. Mm-hmm. If you get into the throttle too hard coming out of a corner, it stops turning.
It's going to go straight instead of continue the turn.
It lifts the front end up enough that you don't lose.
You don't get air, but you don't
get air, but you don't get traction.
It's like sliding on mud or snow or ice.
It pushes.
Roughly, what's the cost of putting a 131? If you can find a dealer to do it, what's the cost of putting a 131 in a tri-glide? Is it above 10 or below 10?
It's below 10.
Below 10.
I want to say closer to 8.
Okay.
So one thing I'm wondering about is, like fuel economy. I mean, is it powerful enough that it gets out of its own way and, doesn't use up a lot of fuel, or is it, so much power, it's consuming so much fuel that it actually hurts fuel economy?
Well, and we talked about this, and we also talked about heat. And unfortunately, the audio is bad. So the number one is we rode in a group. So we were constrained. Neither one of us could ride probably as fast as we wanted. But we rode in a group, and we rode either with him in front or with me in front. So we were going pretty much the same speed, accelerating pretty much the same weight on both of them. We both had passengers. And at every fill up, we would check and see how much each other filled up. And every fill up, we were hand calculating the miles per gallon, and we were always within 1 to 2 miles per gallon of each other. Sometimes I was getting 1 to 2 miles per gallon better. Sometimes he was getting 1 to 2 miles per gallon better. And so that was probably just a matter of how full we were filling up the tank. So for riding the same, the miles per gallon on the 131 is the same as on the Performance Plus Stage 1, which we were varying between 39 and 44 miles per gallon on this trip.
Yeah.
Okay. No interstate, very little interstate, mostly ranging between 30 and 50 miles an hour. And so the miles per gallon is not different on the 131. Now I asked, what about when you get on it? What about when you're riding on your own? He says it'll drop down to the low 30s. Well, I'll drop down to the low 30s when I'm getting on it.
Same on the 114. Yeah.
Okay. The other thing that we did, we were riding and we were in some not stop and go traffic, but every few miles we'd have to stop for a light going through some rural areas, and we would check each other's heat. We're both running the Power Vision. We check each other's ET. What we found was the ET on the 131 went up faster than it did on the 114, and it went a little higher. Overall, it was about 10 to 15 degrees higher than it was on the 114. Now, he's done pretty much everything I've done. He has an oil cooler, the dual cool oil cooler from DK. He has the oil filter relocation. He has a tank lift. He has cooling deflector wings. He has external breather system. He's got a power vision tune. He's not running the Thunder Torque inserts. So that's one thing. He's getting some reversion, which is creating a little bit of heat. And he's got cooling fans, same cooling fans I have. So the bike is set up very similarly as far as cooling components. But he was getting a little bit hotter than me and a little bit quicker. But he was cooling down more quickly also. And of course we theorized, number one, the heat sensor that the Power Vision is reading out, you know, they're not medically graded, calibrated, you know.
Yeah.
So it could just be a little bit different there as far as the top temperature. But as far as heating up and cooling, heating up more quickly, cooling down more quickly, the logical, we don't know if it's the correct, but the logical explanation for that we discussed is it's burning more, it has higher compression, it's got more cubic inches, so it's generating heat faster, okay? But then when it's cooling down, when it's not generating a lot of heat under a load or acceleration, it's moving more air through those cylinders. And so that might be what's cooling it down more quickly. So, but back to your question, Dwayne, is miles per gallon. When we rode the same, we got the same miles per gallon. When he gets on it, he goes down to the low 30s. When I get on it, I go down to the low 30s. So it's pretty much the same.
Okay.
Now, when you're not riding in a group and when you're maybe getting on it a little, does your miles per gallon really drop a lot?
It does. In a group ride, I'll get 40 miles per gallon on the trike, constrained by how hard you get to play in the twisties. A smaller group, or when I'm by myself, I'll get down into the low 30s, maybe a 34.
That's the same as a That's the same as a 114. That's what happens with me on the 114. Yeah. So, what else do people ask? Dwayne, what else should we ask? You're not here.
Well, the other question that comes up a lot, I think, is warranty. People are real nervous about putting the 130.
Let's start over.
Sure.
So, first of all, you have to find a dealership that will do it, because I've had dozens of people say they've gone to their dealer and their dealer said they can't do it. So you have to find a dealer that will do it. And there's no advice on that. You have a great dealer.
I have a dealer that stands behind their people. And so we knew that the minute we made the decision to build this motor with the Power Vision instead of the Screamin Eagle tuner, we were outside of the factory warranty. And so what I was relying on was the experience and the integrity of my dealer to stand behind his work. And it's a gray area, because most people aren't going to build a 131 to go to the grocery store and get milk.
Right.
And so, he knows I'm going to ride it. But if there were problems, and there haven't been, I've got 7,000 miles on this build, and it's been trouble-free. Just been a joy the whole time. But if there were problems, he can look at the clutch and the compensator and stuff over there to see how hard I'm banging it. I wouldn't go to just any dealer. This was the dealer that had been doing service on my Harleys for a little less than 10 years, I think.
They had experience with putting 131s.
I did.
In two-wheelers.
Yes.
Is this the first trike they put it in?
This was the first trike. It's hard to find a trike dyno in the part of Colorado where I live, but they had done. They had a two-wheel dyno and had done 131s on two-wheeled bikes, and so that's how they came up with my map. Is they took a map that they had done on a dyno for a bagger and put it in my bike.
It's worked fine.
It works fine.
Yeah.
Again, I know the first rumor I had to deal with when researching the 131 was physically would it fit.
Oh.
That was kind of what the word was, is it won't fit in a trike. it will fit it. There's no physical issues at all.
It's not that they're not taller.
I had no clearance issues. I put when the 131 was first done, I didn't have the tank lift on it, so I know that it clears even with the tank in the stock position.
So there's no fitment issue at all, and it's the factory transmission, factory primary, but heavier springs for the clutch.
Heavier springs for the clutch.
And you don't have any clutch slippage?
Not that I've noticed.
Okay.
Other than accidentally pulling that front wheel up early on in the process. You know, I think you could run into problems if you bang the gears too hard. I do. But I don't. It's because after the newness wears off and you start realizing you don't have to throw those downshifts hard to make a pass.
Roll on the throttle.
Then there's no strain on the drivetrain. You're just cranking open the throttle. You're not hitting the downshift and going. You're just going.
Right.
Next time I ride with Chuck, we're going to have our good microphones. We finally have our audio figured out, hopefully, in all situations.
Yeah.
And we'll do a little follow-up video with him with good audio.
Good audio, yeah.
You see the Screamin Eagle on the heads there, and then stage 4 right there. Oh, I like that catch can. And is there anything different looking on this side?
Yeah, there's an SE in the,
oh, yeah.
the head.
The Screamin Eagle on the heads. And other than that, it's a sleeper, huh?
Yeah, there was 114 badging in 2 places. There was some trim on the air cleaner and then the derby cover.
So, man, thanks for sharing that with us. We're going to go out on the road, I hope, and let people hear what it sounds like.
Sure.
That's some nice throttle.
Past you from right to left, I was at 3rd gear at about 3,000 RPM and threw one shift and shut it down when I hit about 90 miles an hour around the corner down
In
there.
what gear?
I think I was in 4th.
4th?
Yeah. Yeah,
and
you
then
still got a lot of gear left. The fastest I've had this has been low hundreds. And then there's 6th gear.
Hope you all enjoyed the video. If you have questions, I don't know any more than what's been said in this video, but you can put them, share your comments down below if you want. And if you have questions, I'll try and get with Chuck and see if he has any answers to them. But the 131 absolutely fits in the Tri-Glide. I've ridden with them twice. It's not a Phantom, it works. And you just got to find a dealership that'll do it.
Dealership that has done it before.
That has done it before, right.